Are you struggling to get your name out there as a composer? Do you enjoy creating music but struggle to get people to listen or to notice the good work that you're doing? Or do you have the feeling that your music isn't good enough and you need to be better in some way, but you just can't figure out what that one thing is to improve and to impress people with your music? Are you a music student and you notice that your peers are getting farther and farther ahead of you and that you're just left behind in the dust? So today I hope to share some essential rules that I had to deal with when I was studying music composition in school, and how to get your music to be attention grabbing and to be competitive in today's market. And even if you don't plan on pursuing music professionally, or you don't plan on selling your music to make a living, you can still implement these tips to have more attention grabbing music that people will latch onto, because it has these components that make them seem way more crafted and planned out, and you barely have to do any more work than you're doing right now. So keep on watching if you want to learn the rules that I did to help me become a more successful composer while I was studying music, and how I started building a professional career while I was still in school. A big misconception about composing today is just focusing directly on the craft and making your music the best that it can be, better than anyone else's. But that's kind of a vain metric. You can't really objectively compare one piece to another and say which one is better in terms of the compositional components of it. So in today's market, we actually have to make our music more marketable. We have to think of our music more as a service that we're giving to others in return for value. And I know this is gonna anger a lot of people out there who really want to just focus on the art of composing. And while I don't want to disregard that aspect of the history and the craft of composing, we still have to consider that we're not going to be able to make a living as a composer today if we don't focus on what makes it marketable for audiences that want to purchase it. So one of the things that I highly recommend for beginning composers is to actually market your music towards beginning musicians who are just starting out. So I focused on writing music that's educational for students who are just learning their instruments, who are in beginning 5th grade band, going on to middle school and high school. The music might not be as exciting or as difficult as the music that you're writing now, but we have to think that most of our market, of our customers, are going to be at that beginning level, and the higher we go up with experience and difficulty in our music, the less likely we're going to be able to sell that music, because it's just such a smaller market. We have to think about supply and demand like it is in a real business. We're not going to be able to effectively sell grade 5 band music or professional symphonic music for the Chicago Symphony right from the get-go, because that is such a very niche part of the music industry. And most composers can't get there unless they already have a name for themselves and they've been doing it for decades. As a beginning composer, we need to focus on how can we sell our music to as wide of an audience as we can while still maintaining quality and staying unique, which we'll get into later. And once we write a lot of music for our own difficulty, if we're only like an intermediate level pianist or saxophonist, then maybe we should be writing music that we could play and our friends can play, and writing music that appeals to a bigger base of customers who would potentially buy them. Think of marketing your music to those beginning choir directors and band directors who are looking for new music online, music that will appeal to and caters to the needs of their ensembles. Once you have that traction and you have a good body of work and you improve your skills and you become more reputable as a composer, then you can go ahead and focus on writing more advanced music, and once you have more of a name for yourself. Again, when you create your music from the beginning of the drafting stage, make sure you have an idea of who your end target is. What specific ensemble should be playing this music, and how are we going to market and appeal this music to that specific group, and how do we cater to their needs? And by doing this and actually finding great interest in writing for educational ensembles like string orchestras, bands, and choirs, I've actually secured a publishing deal with one of the biggest music publishers in the world for educational music when I was still in my undergraduate studies. So it's totally possible, and you actually might enjoy it if you haven't written for those levels already. And on the note of making our music more marketable, we have to think about how we can make it in a package that appeals to people who are going to buy it. So let's go back to that example of marketing towards a middle school band director. We have to make sure that the materials in it are suitable to their ensemble. The difficulty is in a grade level that works for that specific age group. We have to think about pedagogical techniques like writing specific articulations, not writing in 6 sharps, making sure the range of the instruments are suitable for that level. There are so many different factors that you have to consider when you're writing for your specific group, and by narrowing down who your performance target is and who you're going to be selling this to, you can actually inform your writing style and create music that is marketable, and you can actually have that be a successful performance instead of just writing what you want. You can market your music towards that specific group, and your writing will just come naturally with those guidelines. And as composers in the 21st century, we have to write music that's functional. Any motion picture today that comes out of Hollywood has original film music scored by composers because there's a need to have music underscored to scenes. If you think about commercials, it's the same way. And if we're thinking about production libraries and pop music, we need those songwriters, composers, and producers to create music that has a specific need in the market. In the same vein, concert music also requires that specific need. We can't just be writing music that's not going to be intended to be performed one day or to be sold to a group that's going to perform it. We have to have a specific function for it. Going back to writing for education ensembles, there's a need for music that teaches young musicians how to perform music and to learn specific pedagogical skills that'll help them become better musicians in the future. If we just write a cool sounding piano arrangement that doesn't specifically market towards a specific level of musician, or there's no need for it in the market, can't expect that our music is going to skyrocket in popularity and in sales. There has to be some purpose and drive behind who we're going to be aiming our music towards. And that all comes from making your music more marketable and making it shippable as well. That comes with how we present the music and where we market it online or in person, and we're going to get to that later. And I keep on talking about that specific niche of a market, but if that's not where your interests lie, then think of a different niche where you have some unfair advantage in. For example, if you're a producer or a songwriter, what genre do you naturally tend to write for? Is it country or bluegrass, or writing pop music? I don't really know. I'm not much a songwriter myself. But if you're a composer, are you a woodwind player and you prefer writing for chamber? So maybe woodwind quintets would be a great niche market for you to tap into. You really have to find and experiment what works for you and what your unique strengths are. If you're just beginning as a music student and you're not super proficient at your instrument yet, maybe continuing to improve your instrumental or vocal skills will help inform your writing. You need to have some sort of unique edge to your compositions that you can sell and promote. And we also need to make sure that the compositions themselves have some merit to them. They need to be well organized. They need to have form, structure, an idea, moods, evocative elements in it that make it compelling and cohesive and coherent. And just learning the art of composition is a whole skill in and of itself. And that's what a lot of musicians do in music school when they major in music composition. They learn the basic art and crafts and structures behind music that has prevailed throughout hundreds of years of Western musical history in American music schools today. If your music does not have the basic elements that make it a cohesive and coherent piece of music, like reusing motivic ideas, developing ideas, not having a million different things in your piece that can distract the listener and the performer alike. If your piece is not compelling as a product itself, then it's very hard to market it. So as a pianist primarily, a lot of my pieces include piano because that's just one of the instruments that I'm good at writing for. If you're a violinist, you should maybe emphasize more in writing string music. Just developing a better holistic musical skill set will inform your compositions immensely. Continuing to be a great instrumentalist or vocalist will 10x your compositional output. And if you don't play an instrument, there are ways that you can score study and find resources on orchestration and writing idiomatic for instruments, writing well for instruments in ways that are natural. And this naturally leads us to the presentation of our music. Does it look professional? If you compare your music to a published score that you can find for free online at imslp.org, or fill in the blank of any of your favorite living composers, do they match up in terms of how they're presented in quality and in presentation? Does the formatting and the layout of the page look similar? Does the engraving and the specific notation look professional and is easily readable? Are there mistakes riddled throughout the score of your piece, like repeated dynamics or articulations that are not consistent in the piece? Is there enough space in between systems, or is there not enough space in between the systems? How many systems do you have per page? Are they consistent? There are so many different factors that you have to consider when you're presenting a piece professionally today, and if your music looks like crap but sounds great, no one's gonna care. You have to have your music look like it's a serious piece of published music. People will not even look at your music if it doesn't look like it's well presented and you actually put time and effort into creating it. And a lot of the skills can be learned for free online through different resources like scoring notes, orchestration online. There's a book that's a Bible on music notation called Behind Bars by Elaine Gould, and I talk about it so many times in this channel, but it's a great resource. I actually also have a few videos on presenting your music professionally, so check out my channel if you're interested. So have a high standard for how your music is presented professionally. Just take a look at your cover page. Are you using some generic stock photos, and are the elements of the page appealing visually? There's a lot of free resources online for creating designs for front pages and title pages like Canva. So these are all skills that you can find online for free. And should you ever get commissioned to write a piece of music, which has happened to me and a lot of my other peers while they were still studying music, you're gonna need a commission contract to make sure that all the deadlines are set, the payment schedule is clear, and then you can avoid any potential issues that come up. So that's why I created a professional commission agreement template that you can just fill. It's completely blank except for the most important elements of the contract that make it legally binding, and will save you so much time in creating one yourself, because there are so many factors to consider in creating a commission contract. So to save yourself that valuable time and money so you can get back to just writing the music and focusing on the art, I have linked my commission template down below for you to check out on my Ko-fi page if you're interested. Okay, so we focused on the presentation, the writing of the music, and targeting our specific audience and demographic for who's going to be performing and purchasing our music. We now have to focus on selling and presenting our music online and making it discoverable to people who will actually perform and buy it. And this is my favorite part, actually. This is the part that most student composers neglect, and they don't cultivate until very late on in the stage, and then it's just super detrimental to their professional growth. And that's just creating an online presence. By having this YouTube channel, for example, I've reached out to thousands of potential clients, fellow musicians, and people who are going along the same journey as me. We can support each other. I created a personal portfolio website, which I made a video about as well, and creating different avenues for people to discover me as an artist and composer, but also a way for me to monetize and to sell my music. Building that broad network comes through having a good social media presence. Most of the performances and commissions that you'll get in your composing career are from people that you know in your network, and by going to conferences and other networking opportunities, as well as following your favorite online artists and directors and musicians, that's the way that you're going to be successful in your career and getting these jobs and getting your first purchases of your music. It's from people that you know, and you have to get yourself out there if you're an introvert, because no one's going to do that for you, and you're going to be left behind in the dust if you're not going to be proactive about your networking and your development as an artist. So we have to advocate for ourselves and share our music on these online platforms consistently and in a way that appeals to who our target market was that we talked about in the beginning of the video. You have to make it appealing for whoever's gonna buy it. So if we talk about that beginning band piece, we have to market it in a way that addresses all the concerns and needs of a band director, something that's accessible for that level, that fulfills all the grade requirements that you can find online on any publisher's website, that it challenges specific educational benchmarks, that it's appealing for the kids themselves to play, that it has an exciting, evocative title and a mood and style of the piece that is exciting to play and they want to play, and it's priced competitively, can be put together relatively quickly. These are all things that all band directors are looking for. So find what makes your music have a unique edge to it, and market the wording and the program notes behind who that target audience is and who's going to be performing it and purchasing it at all. So I always recommend having some website of some kind that you can have all your music listed out, sorted by category or chronologically or whatever. You just need to have some sort of online website where people can actually find your music and purchase it. You can actually upload your music to JW Pepper through their MyScore program, which allows you to use their massive sheet music database network. They print and ship your music for free after you pay the one-time fee, and it saved me so much time and money from actually printing out my music, which is a lot of paper and ink, and shipping it out, which I have no clue how to do. Ugh. You can make a YouTube channel with score videos of your music to drive traffic to the sales page of your piece. Just creating some sort of funnel to market your music in a competitive and compelling way. And again, this is just the one part that beginning composers always neglect, is just presenting your music out there online and not being afraid of criticism. As long as you follow what we talked about with presenting music professionally, with making it compelling to a certain audience, and that cannot steer you wrong, and you just have to be vulnerable and just put it out there and consistently put it out there, so you can actually find that one customer that will buy it and the audience that will support you, and the community that you can build. And we also need to know how to take constructive feedback as composers. We have some of the biggest egos that I can think of. We're really protective of our music and we don't want people to change it. But if I never let my composition teachers or my friends make feedback about my music and allow me to reconsider things or tweak things to make it a little bit more compelling or more performable, then I would not be where I am today. I would not be going to grad school for music composition if I didn't accept feedback and actually take it into account. We get so wrapped up in our own minds about how a piece is. We listen to the same MIDI recording of our piece and we don't think twice about maybe that is a little stale, maybe that certain gesture doesn't work, this is not really performable for the flute in that register. We need a second opinion from people who haven't heard our music to make those suggestions to us, and we can actually take it or leave it. We don't need to take everything they say and run with it, but we should be open to feedback, and that's something that not a lot of people really do as composers. They think that they're always right and their way is the highway. But the fastest way to improve as any type of artist is to accept criticism and feedback and use that to propel yourself forward. Inevitably, by this fast improvement of your art and craft through feedback, you'll actually naturally gain your unique voice as an artist and composer. We often try to think of what makes me unique, what's my style, what's my unique edge, or what makes my music original in my own way. And we actually shouldn't be thinking about that. It's more of a byproduct of continuing improvements and trying new things that we can find that unique voice. And naturally that'll make you stand apart from fellow peers and composers by just continually having more output consistently. We don't want to focus on writing the one masterpiece that'll make us famous and we can just live on a beach in Maui forever. We have to focus on building a large, diverse repertoire portfolio of work that we can show people. A lot of pieces are going to be really bad. We're going to have a large body of our work that you don't really want to listen to again, but you're not going to be able to write the music that you're proud of if you don't start out with, the hundreds of pieces that don't sound great. It takes a long road of improvement to get to a point where you are proud of your music, and that's where you're going to get to the point where you can sell music that's appealing, is through just trying and trying again. So by thinking of your music as a service, by making it marketable and shippable, by presenting our music in a professional manner, making the music itself cohesive and presentable, and finding a platform for us to share and sell our music online, as well as embracing feedback and constantly improving, these are surefire ways to build a lasting composing career that will make your music stand out and soar ahead of all the other composers who are struggling with these things because they don't think too much about what goes behind the music. It's not just the craft and writing of beautiful music, it's the way we present it and get it out to the world. Because we wouldn't have a job if it weren't for the people that make it happen, and the performers and the directors who buy these things and commission new music. And me personally, I know I had a huge amount of imposter syndrome when I started writing music. And only by implementing these tips through years and years and failing and learning and constantly developing through feedback that I came to a point where I was very proud of the music that I made, and I had external validation through awards and getting a degree in the field. These tips will hopefully uplift you from where you are now and help you soar in as fast of a time as possible, and help you build a sustainable career that you can be proud of. So if you're currently in music school and you want to learn more about my experiences in that, if that's something it's worth investing in, then I made a video about my experiences in my undergraduate years studying music composition in college, so check out that video next. But thank you so much for watching, and keep writing.